Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again, and welcome to The Roads with Bo. Today is January 14th, 2024, and this is episode 21 of The Roads Not Taken, which is a weekly series where we go through the previous week's events and talk about news that was unreported, underreported, just didn't get the context or attention it deserves, or I just happen to find it interesting. After that, we will go through some questions from y'all. Okay, starting off with foreign policy. Taiwan voted to stay with the party that opposes reunification. They push back on China. There's going to be a lot more on this over on the other channel. Biden has already made it clear that the U.S. does not support independence for Taiwan, and we'll talk about why over on the other channel. Taking advantage of the current disarray in the Middle East, Turkey launched a series of strikes against the Kurds in Iraq and Syria. Something like this is one of those things that could cause the situation to spiral into a regional conflict, because it is outside of what's being managed. Okay, Ukraine is being hammered by Russian strikes after congressional funding has run out, while congressional Republicans certainly appear to be siding with a country that constantly threatens to use nuclear weapons against the U.S. and its allies. A ceasefire agreement was reached in Myanmar between the government and the rebel alliance. That's really what they're called, the rebel factions there. It was apparently brokered by the Chinese. This conflict has not been getting a lot of coverage because there's not a built-in audience for it in the West, but it was closely followed by military analysts because the rebels, they approached it with a great deal of ingenuity. This is going to be studied. This is going to be one of those conflicts that informs strategy later. Okay, moving on to the U.S. Hunter Biden's attorneys have promised that he'll comply if the GOP issues new subpoenas. Whether intentional or not, Speaker Johnson is currently engaging in some stuff with the budget that is rendering the MAGA faction irrelevant. They are super mad about it. Like, they need capes. They're that mad. They are super mad. I would imagine you're going to see a lot of fireworks in the Republican Party in the House this week. The Republican representative from Tennessee, Tim Burchett, indicated that he believed some of his colleagues in Congress were being blackmailed, but has not elaborated on that except to say that it isn't necessarily by a foreign power. I mean, that's interesting. That'll probably come up again. Republicans are currently worried that inclement weather will decrease the turnout at the Iowa caucus. Chris Christie dropped out of the GOP presidential primary, but not before getting caught on a hot mic mocking other candidates. It appears that Christie believes Nikki Haley is going to be smoked. Inflation declined last month. Okay, moving on to cultural news. Bill O'Reilly has had some books, at least temporarily, removed from libraries and schools in Florida under a law that he supported. Something leopards and, yeah, so there's that. I would imagine that that's going to turn into a thing because he's probably going to reach out to government officials that he knows in Florida, and then they will exert pressure, at which point all of this becomes a First Amendment issue in a big way. Okay. I didn't know whether to put this under cultural or oddities, to be honest. Taylor Swift has been accused by right-wing conspiracy gurus of being a Pentagon psychological operation. Taylor Swift, the PSYOP. Can I just say that nothing makes a creator feel more accomplished than a rumor like this, saying that an intelligence agency is actually like behind everything? Because the subtext of it, the underlying concept, is that this person is so good at what they do, they have to have like this massive secretive organization behind them. There's really not anything more flattering than that, just so you know. In environmental news, 2023 is now confirmed to be the hottest year on record. I don't think anybody's really surprised by that. There is now a push to be less subtle when describing how people need to change their behavior to help the climate. Rather than just, go green, they're looking at putting out more specific talking points on what the average person can do. As soon as there is some consensus, I will definitely let y'all know what those are. Okay, moving on to oddities. And there's a few of them. Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek actor James Doohan, better known as Scotty, will be forever drifting through space along with a bunch of other additional human remains because technical difficulties made depositing their remains, the other remains, on the moon impossible. So there were like two missions. One was to send the Star Trek people like out into space. The other one was to put remains on the moon. But now they're all going. If you're Navajo, well, I mean, you know. Okay, Fox News has reportedly dumped the My Pillow guy, and that's from what I understand in the reporting, it has to do with him not paying. It has been a wild, wild week in archaeology with major finds in the Amazon, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. There's definitely going to be more over on the other channel about this because some of it rewrites history books. But short version about the one that I find most interesting, there's like a massive network of cities in the Amazon. Okay, recently the world was just captivated by viral images of, quote, alien mummies that were found in Peru, and they spawned theories about pre-Columbian contact with civilizations that are literally out of this world. Upon forensic analysis, it was determined that the mummies were made from human and animal bones along with paper and modern synthetic glue. So not only were they not aliens, they weren't even like old. Okay, moving on to the Q&A portion. Note, say the email address. Question for Beau. Question and then FOR, Beau, BEAU, all one word, at Gmail. And then this is the same note from last week. Tell everybody that I don't use Telegram. I will never ask you to go to Telegram and ask for your personal information. That is a scammer in the comment section. Okay. What do you say to people that say those who stormed the beaches of Normandy wouldn't put up with our woke society? First, I always want to know why it's the beaches of Normandy. Like, you never hear people say those who fought at Anzio, you know. We just talked about Star Trek. Star Trek was easily one of the most woke TV shows, especially for its time. A lot of social commentary, a lot of injecting politics into the story type of thing. A little bit of trivia. You almost never see Scotty's hand. His right hand, you almost never see it. And when you do see it, it's always kind of obscured. You never really see it full on, except in a couple of very rare scenes. It's because he left a large chunk of his hand on the beaches of Normandy. He was a forward observer. So I don't know that that's true. The people who stormed the beaches of Normandy are the people who, kept FDR in office. They're the people who created all of the woke shows or starred in them. And never forget, the whole reason they stormed the beaches of Normandy was to fight right-wing authoritarian goons. Just saying. Why don't you clarify that you're not Jewish? I think it might help. Maybe I am. Just like maybe I'm Muslim, or maybe I'm gay or trans, or any of the other things that get said. I don't feel like... I feel like if you deny something like that, you're undermining people, if that makes any sense. If you're denying it, you are, in essence, saying that's a bad thing. If you feel like you have to issue a denial about it. So maybe I am. I don't care. How can you believe in global warming with this weather? Fun fact, actually. The Arctic blasts that are coming down, the polar waves, whatever term the weather people are using right now, the reason that's happening more is because of warming weather. The winds, there's like a polar vortex that used to keep all of the cold air up north, and it's become unstable because of the changing climate. So it's literally because of it. Just saying. The NASA Lockheed Martin X-59 Quest. Thoughts? Okay, hang on. The X-59. Okay, so this is the one that looks really weird. So this is a plane that is being unveiled. The public-facing story behind it is that it is to reinvigorate the interest in supersonic commercial travel. And they will be flying this thing, like once they get it tested, they'll be flying it over cities and then talking to the people in the cities to see if they heard it. Because it's supposed to be really quiet, it reduces all of the noise and all of that stuff. And that is certainly for supersonic commercial travel. There is no possible military application for a very quiet supersonic plane. Okay, what do you think of McGurk's plan? Okay, a little bit of context on that for people who don't know. A plan for dealing with like the period after the fighting when it comes to Palestine. It has been leaked. At least parts of it have been discussed. My understanding is that this is not the plan. This is one of multiple plans that are being considered. As far as what was leaked, I have questions. I definitely have some questions. I mean, it's an interesting idea, and some of the angling and the foreign policy intrigue in it, I mean, it's a good way to get people on board. But if we want an end to this, it ends with a multinational force standing between the two sides, a Palestinian state, or at least a a very viable path to a Palestinian state, and then dump trucks full of cash pouring into Gaza and the West Bank to aid in reconstruction and rebuilding the economy to a point where people feel comfortable and then are less likely to suffer from economic instability, which feeds recruitment for extreme groups. Nothing's really going to get away from that. Those ingredients have to be there. And they're not all there in McGurk's plan. Some of the way he's talking about, or the way that plan talks about bringing in other Arab nations to help with the aid and to kind of use one problem to solve another as far as normalization of the relationship between Israel and Saudi Arabia. All of that sounds great. But the key ingredients for actually dealing with the issue, I have questions about. Okay. Cute rant about Trump in Yemen. I guess we'll have to wait until his next term to see if he does any of that, right? I love the way you dumb lefties act like you know what he's going to do and act like he's a warmonger. I'd love for you to do a whole video explaining how you know with so much certainty that he would put boots on the ground in Yemen or veto a resolution. Come on, you homosexual, show your work, female dog. Okay, so funny story. What I said in that video, that's not what I expect him to do in his next term. It's what he did in his last one. Those weren't hypotheticals. He vetoed the resolution to end U.S. involvement in Yemen. He did, in fact, order boots on the ground, a raid, shortly after he took office. Those weren't hypothetical. That it already happened. That's my work. Go to Google and type the stuff in. Man. Okay. Constitutional republic, or are we a democracy? I have a video on this that's pretty in-depth. This is a lot like saying, if somebody asks you, do you have a car? And you say no, because you have a Jeep. You have a vehicle. I'll put the video in the description, and it kind of goes through it. Just understand, the people who say that, most of them don't even know what these words mean. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying they literally do not know what they're saying. We're not a democracy, we're a republic. Yeah, okay. I would point out that China is a republic, the United Kingdom is not. Which one are we more like? Okay. If you were able to go into a disaster area, but could send a robot into the disaster area, what would be the top 6 things you'd equip it with? You can put tools in there, and the robot can serve as a battery generator. 6 things. 6 things to equip a robot with for disaster relief. Okay, a saw. Let's start with that. A saw. I'm assuming we're sending the robot into an impacted area. Yeah, so a saw. A radio or phone, so anybody that the robot can reach that people can't, can make calls to whoever they need to. And then, of course, I would want like a video feed, an audio feed from the robot back, so the person controlling the robot could talk to the people. I would put an IFAK, an advanced first aid kit, on the robot. and add the ability to purify water and hands, like robot hands. I'm wondering if this is the tech person who sent out the other question, told me to pitch a tech idea in 60 seconds or something. Okay, so that looks like it. Yeah, so this week there's going to be a whole lot of developments. Politically in the U.S., I would definitely keep your eyes on the House. Probably in the Middle East, definitely in Ukraine. There have already been some interesting developments inside Russia related to Ukraine, and then we're also throwing Taiwan into the mix now, and we'll go over that as well. So there's a lot going on. Okay, but there you go. A little bit more information, a little more context, and having the right information will make all the difference. Y'all have a good day.